George, have you ever hacked a computer?
Only once, and only kinda.
How do you only kinda hack a computer?
Back in high school, my senior year, I lived with my ex and her parents. They had an old computer running Windows 3.1.
Windows 3.1? Was that still around when you were in high school? Weren't Windows 95 and Windows 98 already out?
I'm surprised and a little impressed that you thought to ask that.
Thank you.
Well, when what you have still works, you don't spend the money to get new stuff. And we've been running the computers we use for the show for 5 years now.
Gotcha. But how do you kind of hack something?
It was easy to make a computer run something on startup, so I wrote a little script, not really a virus because it didn't replicate itself, and put it in the computer startup folder.
What did it do?
It delayed keystrokes and acted like the operator was the problem. Basically, it was a little practical joke that gaslit and frustrated my future ex-father-in-law, then erased itself.
That's pretty harmless. Did you ever think about hacking a government computer and starting a nuclear war?
No.
Oh, but did you ever think about maybe downloading... No, but seriously, have you ever tried getting some... You're no fun.
I know, Joe. I know.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks at old movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romacka. And today we're discussing WarGames from 1983. This was a Patron's Choice episode. This beat out two other movies about computers. The patrons voted, and this is what got picked. First, as usual, we talk about some historical context. But even before that, some podcasty stuff. We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We joined because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their work, so if you have skills you think would be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones that leave their passwords written on sheets of paper anywhere that can be found on their desk. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod.
Okay, with that out of the way, George, take us back to 1983.
Okay.
And this is the way it was.
Our protagonist lives in Seattle, Washington, so that's where I'll start.
Seems like a good place to start, sure.
What did I find for nuclear war from a publication in Seattle, Washington in 1983? From The Rocket, I found Teach-In on Preventing Nuclear War and the Way Forward, with speeches by Sherry Klink, Greenpeace, Charles McConis of SRPAC, and others at Camp Firehouse. This was in the events section. Well, that was
They were going to teach in how to prevent nuclear war? Huh?
Yeah, and apparently it was a massive success because we obviously haven't nuked ourselves to oblivion yet.
That's true. It worked, guys. Congrats.
I ended up going to Canada to find something more substantive. Joe, give us this headline from the Standard of St. Catharines, Ontario.
Nuclear arms race targeted for victory. Big to talk of winning.
And this headline from the same article.
Are 1980s the eve of global nuclear war?
And this headline also from that article, which feels like the real one that it should have been.
Arms race to oblivion.
This was the first in a 6-day series in this newspaper about the nuclear climate in 1983. This one gave the nuclear arms race a start date, of July 30th, 1939, the day that scientists Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner visited Albert Einstein and convinced him to write a letter to FDR about how if the Nazis developed nuclear weapons first, they could take over the world.
Mm-hmm. True.
By 1983, the Third Reich was defeated, and the two worlds...
Was it really?
The Third Reich was. Nazism is an ideology, not so much.
Yes.
But by then, the two world superpowers, the USA and USSR, were locked in an ever-escalating nuclear arms race with more than enough firepower on a hair trigger to end human civilization.
This is true.
In 1961, JFK gave a speech at the UN and said this: "Every man, woman, and child lives under a nuclear sword of Damocles, hanging by the slenderest of threads, capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or by madness."
That's true. And you know what he did right after that speech?
Got shot.
No, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Or killed her, depending upon what your point of view is. But he wasn't wrong about that, right?
No, no.
About the nuclear thing, not
right.
Marilyn Monroe.
Correct. I mean, if you had a shot at Marilyn Monroe, you took it. I mean, not in the killing sense.
Not in the killing sense.
Yeah. Trying to move on from that, he wasn't wrong, and all of that is still true. The 1980s were a time where the fear of nuclear annihilation was morphing because the strategic position of the United States and the developmental trajectory of our weapons were moving away from a doctrine of last resort to that of a protracted nuclear war. Away from nuking each other's cities and towards trying to preemptively take out the other side's nuclear arsenal. It's one thing to fear getting vaporized. It's another to fear the loss of all infrastructure and slow death from poisoning by radiation. In this film, the threat of nuclear annihilation comes from a computer that treats everything like a game.
Quite honestly, have we really moved away from this whole idea of nuclear? Aren't we closer than ever, possibly a nuclear annihilated? We just don't talk about it anymore.
No, it's not that we moved away from it. It's that the idea behind mutually assured destruction was if you launch, we launch, and then everybody dies.
Yep.
And everybody found a little bit of solace in that everybody was going to die. When you start talking about using your nuclear weapons to take out the other side's nuclear weapons, and you're not obliterating cities, then you're irradiating the entire country. And everything just gets worse for everybody instead of ending for everybody. And that is scarier. You've been able to play chess against a computer opponent in every home PC ever. Computers are well suited to games because games are activities with defined rule sets, and computers are great at following rules so long as those rules are well defined. The computer in this movie, that they keep calling Joshua even though that's not its name, it's the login. That's a login name to that computer.
Oh, okay. It
is a fictional representation of artificial intelligence, or, as we call things that are absolutely not that today, AI. What was going on with AI in 1983? Joe, give us this headline from the Journal News of White Plains, New York.
The rush for artificial intelligence. Experts foresee a deluge in the marketplace.
This was 1983. This could have been written 4 years ago. According to this article from, again, 1983, there was an explosion of AI applications in industry. Helpfully, the article defines what it means by AI. And I'm quoting, "Artificial intelligence takes three basic forms: vision systems used in robots and image processing, natural language programs that allow workers to search databases by using everyday English, and knowledge-based or expert systems that not only seek to duplicate the knowledge of an expert, but to capture some of the expert's thought processes." Every AI thing we see today is still those things. We see natural language database search engines that also try to be paradoxically generalized experts that can also do image processing. Industry examples cited in this article include computers that can do calculus, give instructions on how to repair a car, and identify oil deposits in core samples.
If only we'd stopped there.
Right? But according to those definitions, we might actually have AI nowadays. However, most people using the term aren't using those definitions. And that, to me, is a massive ignorance problem. And with that out of the way, Joe, let's talk about WarGames.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, well, WarGames was directed by John Badham. Not Goodham, but Badham.
Mm-hmm. You gotta think, a lot of names like Smith, right, came from occupations.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Thatcher came from an occupation. How fucked was the ham that this guy gave somebody that it became his name and he was still able to get laid and pass it on?
Bad ham maybe didn't mean bad in the sense we mean it today. Maybe it was good.
Almost certainly it did not, but it's funnier to think it did.
Well, you never know. You know the origin of the name Maverick, right? Maverick today means someone who's daring and goes out and does stuff against the rules. But the name Maverick actually comes from a guy named Maverick who would not put up signs for his animals, and his animals would collect with other people's animals and insist those are his. And he was just basically an asshole. And that's what Maverick initially meant. So, and now it means, hey, someone's really daring. But back in the day, it meant this guy's a jerk.
I never really see it as somebody that's daring. It's just somebody that doesn't follow the rules.
Yeah, okay. Still.
Which is usually an asshole.
I guess, but Maverick usually seen as a good thing than a bad thing. They usually say someone's a maverick, it's not an insult.
Right. Because people like to see themselves as the hero who bucks the rules.
Anyway, back to this gentleman, John Badham. We've seen his work in Saturday Night Fever and Short Circuit.
2 very different movies.
Very different. And I've seen his work in Stakeout and Another Stakeout.
2 not so different movies.
No, sequels, in fact. And this movie was written by Lawrence Lasker and Walter F. Parks. Let's get into the blurbs. This is from IMDb. A young man finds a back door into a military central computer in which reality is confused with game playing, possibly starting World War III. YouTube says, an 80s teenager...
No, it doesn't. YouTube says, a 80s teenager, like a savage. No, you said an, because it should be an 80s teenager. Because the English rule is that when the next word... No, you didn't type this. You copied and pasted this. This isn't your problem. This is YouTube's problem.
An 80s teenager bored by traditional high school subjects like biology, but fascinated by computers, accidentally tapped into the Pentagon's top secret computer, the USA's NORAD system.
Okay, stop. Just stop there. What?
Is that it?
That's weird. That's a weird way to parse that out. Okay, keep going.
Okay. He starts what he innocently believes is a computer game called Global Thermonuclear War, but the game is real. The Pentagon's best minds cannot shut down or reprogram the supercomputer that is readying a missile attack against the USSR, and thereby unleash Armageddon. Not the movie, the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
The teen and his girlfriend attempt to aid... That was me, not the YouTube. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the teen and his girlfriend attempt to aid the helpless Pentagon and, in a frantic race against a ticking doomsday clock, try to dissuade the computer to end the game. Here are some of the characters we're going to discuss. David is played by Mathew Broderick. For the podcast, we've seen him in Glory.
Mm-hmm.
And both George and I have seen him in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I've seen him in Election, No Hard Feelings, Manchester by the Sea, Trainwreck, The Road to Wellville, Torch Song Trilogy, and Biloxi Blues.
And I've seen him in Inspector Gadget and The Producers.
Technically, I've also seen him in Producers, but I've seen him on Broadway, not in the movie.
Ah, so David is our teenage protagonist.
He is. And since this is an 80s movie, that means he is the true hero.
Sure.
Yes, he is truly the hero. As in all 80s movies, no matter how much the teenager fucks up, he's really the true hero of the movie. Jennifer is played by Ali Sheedy. And we've seen her for the podcast in The Breakfast Club and also Short Circuit again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen her in X-Men Apocalypse and Bad Boys, the 1983 version, not the one with Will Smith.
Gotcha. And I've seen her in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
What's your favorite actor? Donald Trump. I'm just saying something factual is all. That he's in it. That is not that he's your favorite actor.
So Jennifer will be the love interest of our protagonist. And kind of, sort of, maybe help.
Kind of, sort of help. Although she seems to mostly just be there to be the love interest. I also, well...
Actually, she is just there to... Like, she doesn't play materially any part in this movie.
Yeah, she doesn't help with the computer or nothing. Although, I guess she sort of talks Falcon into doing his job and saving them. Like, maybe that helped. And speaking of Falcon, he is played by John Wood. He's going to be the head professor guy. That's just sort of technically starting all this off.
The Falcon is the guy that invents the supercomputer.
Yes.
He then leaves the project, and they create a new identity for him so that nobody can find him and get access to what he knows. And he goes and lives in seclusion on an island.
And the kids somehow find him. But we'll get into that.
We know how the kids find him. At least I know how the kids find him. I don't know if you're paying enough attention.
They figured it out. McKittrick is played by Dabney Coleman. And for the podcast, we just saw him in North Dallas 40. And I've seen him in 9 to 5. We're getting 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. And I've also seen him in Tootsie, Amos and Andrew, The Towering Inferno, and I watched the show Buffalo Bill that he was starring in.
And I've seen him in The Muppets Take Manhattan, one of my favorite movies of all time. And, again, Inspector Gadget.
Dun, 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 Inspector Gadget.
McKittrick is the civilian in charge of the supercomputer at NORAD.
Yes.
He was Falcon's, protege, and then took over for Falcon after he left.
And General Behringer is played by Barry Corbin. For the podcast, we've seen him in Stir Crazy. He was the warden. And I've recently seen him in Killers of the Flower Moon, No Country for Old Men, and Northern Exposure, the TV show.
And I've seen him in Who's Harry Crumb. General Behringer is the general in charge of NORAD.
Yes, so, he's very skeptical on computers.
And he should be. As was the actual leader of NORAD at the time, who they modeled the character after.
Ah, okay, very good.
And also, I put No Country for Old Men on the list when I saw it today, because I'm like, I really need to see that movie, and the only way I'm going to make myself watch that movie is to stick it on the list.
Okay, fair enough. It's a good film, as I remember. Is it 10 years old?
2007.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's 2 hours, 2 minutes, so it's close enough.
Yes. Anyway, George, I have a question for you, my friend, regarding this picture, because that's what we're here to talk about. Why does everyone keep saying what they're typing? Every time someone types something, they say, blues, and then they start writing down blues, or they gotta take the computer. Oh, computer, do you do this? And just type it. We can see it on the screen. Why do you have to say it?
Because that's less interesting. You don't want to... Do you enjoy looking over somebody's shoulder while they're typing something?
I don't know often I do that. However, I will watch movies with subtitles and not have a problem, so...
Right, but that's not somebody... There's other things happening. If you're watching their screen, all you're seeing is the screen and letters popping up on it.
Yeah, but I'm literally seeing them.
And it takes... How long did you want this movie to be? Because it takes a lot longer to type these things out than it does to say them. And a lot of times they used it as a cinematic graphic. I don't even know how to fucking parse that word. They used it as a shortcut to have people and a computer talking to each other without having to show all of that text being exchanged. I get why they did it.
Oh, I get why they did it. I just thought it was ridiculous. Why are they all talking when they're typing? Just type it. Anyway, here's the thing. Let's talk about Jennifer.
Okay.
She goes into David's bedroom after he tells her he has something to show her. Okay. I know she's supposed to be a high school student, but is she so young she wouldn't at least ask if he's going to try something? He even tells her his parents are at home in their first meeting, and she still nodding goes into his room but closes the door behind her. Does this seem realistic?
Joe? Teenage ladies want to have sex too.
I don't think she went there to have sex with him, though.
I don't think she went there to have sex with him, but she may have not been opposed. It might not have bothered her if that's what he wanted to do.
No, they barely know each other. That doesn't make any sense.
I can tell you from I've slept with people the first day that I met them. You don't have to, and they've been in class together. No. But as an adult. But I don't want to buy into the culture of, oh, she should have been protecting her fucking vagina from him.
That's not what I'm saying with that.
Or that all teenage boys are necessarily skis bags. Like, this guy, he's a fucking nerd, and she knows it. Like, she's seen his papers. She knows the kinds of jokes that he tells.
What, nerds can't be in sexual predation?
They can, but... I mean, we also just watched Donnie Darko, and those aren't the nerds that are all gropey and sex.
All I'm saying is just weird that she doesn't even say, all right, you're not going to do anything, are you? That's all. I just wish she doesn't even...
I don't think it's weird. I think they just didn't fucking write that into the script, Joe. I don't need that to be a thing.
Well, I do. If they were a little younger, I would go like, oh, okay, the wind occurred. But as a teenage girl, how many boys are constantly hitting on her? It's just weird she doesn't... And the parents are not home? Come on. Come on. I remember in teenage years, you bring over a girl, which I rarely got to do, but you left that bedroom door open, and you did not bring them over if your parents weren't home, at least in my reality. Continuing with his bedroom, which you think is irrelevant, but I think it's very important, Jennifer walks in on him as he's sitting on his bed with his shirt off. Maybe this says something about me, but if I'm alone by myself taking off things, I'm usually taking off my pants. Who just takes off their shirt and just sits there with the pants on? Long pants, too, not even shorts.
Everyone else, Joe. Because when you are cold, right? If you are like out in the cold, if you are like stuck and you have to keep yourself warm, you keep your chest warm because that is going to lose heat faster. And that's where everything else gets warmed up at. If you want to cool off, you take off your shirt because there's more surface area coming from the hottest part of your body to radiate that heat off. It's not a thing of just not wanting to wear pants. It's a thing of wanting to cool off or being too lazy to put a shirt on. Most of us start with our pants.
It's just weird that he keeps...
I think you're weird that you take your pants off.
I think most people... You don't take your pants off?
No.
I mean, when your wife is there. You always have your pants off?
I'm alone. My wife isn't here this weekend for days. Sometimes I walk around without a shirt, not without pants.
That's just weird.
You never know when you're going to have to leave the house, too. It's better to run out of the house without a shirt on than no pants on.
Well, you put the pants on and then you go to the house. I don't know. It's weird. Just take your shirt off, I think. Okay, let's talk about what's really important. Mm-hmm. Is the computer stuff you see here bullshit? Also, while we're on that, how does he hack that payphone? I didn't understand that. And why does the computer explode at one point? Can you explain all those things to me, George? I know those are 3 different questions.
Yes. Is the computer stuff you see here bullshit? Kinda.
Like, what is the most bullshitty thing there you saw? You know more about computers.
The most bullshitty thing I saw was the AI aspect of this whole thing.
You didn't think the game...
Okay, so let's start in his bedroom. Okay?
Okay.
That wasn't bullshit. He was using telephone lines and modems to look for computer systems, and computer systems, when they answer the phone, sound different than human beings who answer a phone do. So that's how you could do that. In fact, this movie, like hacking computer networks, wasn't illegal until 2 years after this movie came out, and this movie was used to show Congress why we needed laws against hacking.
Well, that makes sense since, who was doing it, so of course they didn't have laws against it because no one... It wasn't a thing yet.
So all of that checks like that. It may have been sort of bullshit, but in theory, you could do that. I could set my computer up to a distributed denial of service attack is when a network or a computer or a network of computers sends ping requests to an IP address so frequently over such a short time that it crashes, that it can't serve web pages, right? That's because we can send things over networks. Computers have been doing that almost since computers existed. So, second question. How does he hack that payphone? Fuck if I know. I don't know how he could use the receiver circuit to trick the phone into thinking that it had gotten a coin. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
When I was in college, and around the time, in the 80s, although after this movie came out, what I found with how we would hack phones is just we would have a number when we press it in and we get, a credit to our phone so we can make the phone call. Because apparently someone got a hold of the numbers that the payphone people or the phone people you'll use to do that. But yeah, it didn't involve us taking anything, open a receiver thing, just put in the right numbers.
Yeah. Now, him getting out of the locked room, we'll get into the why he has the things he uses to do that in a minute. But the way, like, when you had a dial-up modem, the way networked phone systems talk to each other isn't by sending like a 1, right? There's no way for the computer on the other end to know that you mean 1. It has to be a recognizable signal. Nowadays, it's binary code. Back in the day, it was tones. That's what touch tone phones did. They sent those tones, and by sending those tones, you told the computer system what numbers you wanted to dial. So if the number pad that they used made those tones, then he could theoretically feed those tones back into it to get it to be accepting keystrokes. Now, why did the computer explode? Because it's a fucking movie and something had to explode. And since they weren't actually going to let the world get destroyed in the nuclear holocaust, it had to be the computer.
Okay.
Less sarcastically, like they did have a flash or a quick thing of it's drawing more power than it can handle. And that's why it was blowing up, because it was thinking too hard.
Wouldn't that just cause it to shut down as opposed to exploding?
Probably.
Nah, okay.
And after it explodes, after it gives up, what happens in NORAD? All the lights come back on.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So what did the explosions do? Fucking nothing. Nothing was actually damaged in any of the explosions.
Because the lights came back on, true. All right. I checked this, and the movie shows citizens touring NORAD. And I looked into that, and they used to have tours of NORAD up until 9/11, then they stopped that. Now, I'm not sure why they ever had tours in the first place. Doesn't that seem kind of weird? Why would you have, isn't this supposed to be a top secret place? Why would we have them in the first place?
Stop. Human beings are generally trusting. We trust things until given a reason not to. As an example of this, computer security, right? And it comes up in this movie. Do you know why Windows was released without any kind of antivirus software on it?
Because no one had done viruses before, so they figured, no one will do such a thing.
No, it's not that they figured nobody will do such a thing. It's that they didn't have a concept of somebody doing such a thing because it hadn't been done yet. They didn't know it was a security vulnerability. They weren't paranoid enough.
Although the people in this, well, I guess they're not that paranoid, but they're reasonably paranoid. And just generally, if you have that job, your job is to be paranoid. So I'm surprised they didn't, from the beginning, go like, maybe we should have tours here. It just seems, I don't know. All right.
But like you said, after 9/11, they stopped doing that. 9/11 ramped everybody's paranoia up a little bit. And we're like, maybe we shouldn't let so much be accessible to the public.
When you were in the Navy, did you ever actually see tours of military command centers? Was that a thing around when you were working in the Navy?
We gave people tours of the ship, but we didn't bring them down into like the engineering spaces.
Who were the people? Just friends and family, or just any
friends, families, school groups?
Oh, okay.
And we bring school groups through where I work now.
Do you? Okay. Interesting.
We can also I could give you a tour of the plant if you wanted.
Well, let's move on. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. Okay. Maybe I'll take you up on it sometime. Going back to, you mentioned him getting out of the room. At one point, Mathew Broderick's character gets, they bring him in because he's practically started a nuclear war, and they think he works for the Soviets or something. And so they pick him up, and they take him to NORAD for some reason, as opposed to a military prison somewhere. I don't know. Why would they take him to the place?
Because the script said so. That's why. That's the only reason, Joe. The last thing you do when you think somebody is getting into your system and causing a problem is bring them closer to your system.
Yes.
That is strictly the script said so.
But in any case, they take him and they put him in, because they don't have a jail there, so they put him into an infirmary and have him wait there until they figure out what they're going to do with him. In the infirmary, he finds a tape recorder, and he's going to use that, and we'll get into him hacking the door. That's an electronic door that uses to somehow open the door with that tape recorder. What I was confused about is, why is there a tape recorder there? Presumably a doctor was taking notes, but would he just leave his tapes of the notes there, locked up in the cabinet?
I don't know, Joe. I can't speak to that at all. Like, that's the kind of things that make it, like, if you ever play the Fallout video games, it's shit like that that builds the world you're in. Right? It's finding notes on, like, reading notes that people left on their desk or entries in their, like, computer logs that fills out the world that you're in. And I feel like that was there not only as a MacGuffin, or not a MacGuffin, an ex machina, right? But it was there also to build a little bit of that world of, we're kind of paranoid about people around here. We think half the people that we're working with are on drugs.
Yeah, and he says on LSD or something he mentioned.
Yeah.
In that recording with the doctor. Okay, so can you explain to me how this boy opens that door using that tape recorder?
Okay, I told you that it was operating off of those tones, right?
Okay.
So that tape recorder had an input, a microphone input, and a headphone output. So he recorded the tones into the tape recorder and then played them back from the headphone jack into the thing. It sent the tones that it heard and opened the door.
Well, he has a great memory, I guess, because how would he... Because he sees the guy do it exactly once when he opens the door, and then I guess he still remembers, oh, this is supposed to be the tones?
He's been fucking with computers and phone lines for a long time. He might very well have, like, perfect pitch recognition of what tones are what.
Good point. I'll concede that one. All right, staying with NORAD. Can you really drive a Jeep through the closed gate at NORAD and not get shot? And let me set this up. Okay, so the characters, after a long series of events, he starts practically a nuclear war. And so he goes to the original guy who puts the computer together that's about to blow us all up. And he manages to find him through, great detective work on his part. And so he goes there to find the guy. The guy said, oh, let the world destroy itself. I don't give a shit. And as they're arguing with him, he eventually goes, all right, fine. He doesn't actually say that, but he gets a helicopter that apparently I guess the military gave him.
Yeah, he just had one laying around.
He just had a helicopter, and he picks the kids up and goes, all right, let's go save the world. So they're rushing to get to NORAD. I don't know why he doesn't. Can you not bring your helicopter there? I don't know. But instead, he's in a Jeep. And they rush in through, and the gates are closing because there's a serious. We're about to go into nuclear war, so they're closing everything down to NORAD. And they just barely get there in time. And he busts through the gate. Wouldn't there have been gunshots or something after that point?
Probably. But here's the funny thing. That was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
The Jeep wasn't supposed to turn over. It was supposed to just keep going through the gate and bring them all the way to the thing.
Ah.
But they broke the Jeep because it crashed and turned over. And they didn't have the budget to do it again. So they just used that and had the characters run the rest of the way. So it kind of didn't make sense because it kind of wasn't supposed to make sense.
All right. It was funny.
But yes, I do think that they would have gotten the shit shot out of them unless somebody in that crew recognized, no shit, that's the guy.
Yeah, so he put the computer together, what would be the odds of him being outside manning the gate?
Yeah.
All right. Overall, what does WarGames say about the relationship between humans and technology and national security?
It says the same thing that Dr. Strangelove said. We have too many fucking nuclear weapons, and they're on a hair trigger. It's the same thing that JFK said. Like, we're humans are just remarkably short-sighted. We are at once this amazing creative force. We can create art. We can create relationships. We can create all kinds of things. But we're also scared. And we let that fear drive us to do things that are ultimately to our detriment. And our nuclear age posturing has been nothing but that. It has been us being afraid and trying to solve that fear with technology in ways that don't solve the fear. It just gives us more reasons to be afraid. We're fucked, is I think what it's trying to say.
Okay, I don't know that it's saying we're fucked. If anything, the movie ends optimistically because we discover humanity.
Okay, the way it ends. Falcon tells the kids that he gave up on the computer project because it never learned the one thing that he wanted it to learn, which was futility. That there are some games you can't win, or there are some games where there is no winner, where the only winning option is to not play. And the example he gives is tic-tac-toe. Which, I gotta hand it to the writers. That's a really good fucking example. Because he asks Jennifer, like, do you still play tic-tac-toe? No. Yeah, because it's fucking boring. Because if you play with anybody who's played before, you always end up at a stalemate. It's what's called a solved game, which is a game where if every participant plays the game perfectly, nobody wins. So it's kind of ham-fisted how they solve the problem. Because they convince the humans to not follow through with the launch. Right? They're like, look, get on the horn with the first 3 places to get hit. If they're still alive after the hits are supposed to have happened, then you have nothing to actually be afraid of. It's a simulation. And General Behringer's like, okay, we'll do that. And they do that. And then everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no harm, no foul, right? But the computer is still playing the game because the computer doesn't know that it's a game or if it's real because it doesn't make a distinction between the two. So it then tries to brute force hack all of the launch codes. And it actually succeeds in doing that. But not before David and Falcon are like, wait, make it play tic-tac-toe. So they make it play tic-tac-toe against itself by telling it there are 0 players. And because it's a gaming computer and it knows the rules to the game that they didn't program into it because it wasn't in the options, or maybe it was just bored, I don't know. It starts going through all the permutations and possibilities in tic-tac-toe and drawing with itself and just not winning. And then it finishes cracking all the launch codes, but it starts running through all of the simulations that it could, like of all the different war scenarios, and realizing that there are no winners in a nuclear war. And then it quits. It's like, all right, Dr. Falcon, fuck it. Yeah, there's no winners in a nuclear war. You want to play some chess?
Play some chess.
Do you want to play a nice game of chess? Is what it says, which is, I thought, a really nice way to end, like a good ending. Would you like to play a nice game of chess instead?
We should say, we didn't really set this up. We know that Mathew Broderick breaks into NORAD and all that sort of stuff. But the supercomputer that's brought in that starts all this stuff, we don't mention that Dabney Coleman initially, because General Behringer's like, oh, computers, what are you doing? But Dabney Coleman's character is like, no, this is great. We need, because initially the movie opens, and I did not remember this when I first saw the film. So at first I thought, well, we watched the right movie? I don't remember these guys being in it. But at the very beginning of the film, there are these 2 men who are military guys, and they're given the order to launch nuclear weapons. And one of the guys goes like, I can't do it. I cannot. No one's telling me exactly this is really happening. I can't get anyone else on the phone. I just can't do it. And so that's where they get the idea. We should have computers because computers won't give a shit. They'll just do what you tell them to do and they'll fire off. So that's what starts all this. And that's where the movie began. And it's not wrong, but don't we want hesitation?
Yes, we abso-fucking-lutely do. If we're going to have these systems, which we shouldn't have, then we want there to be humans in the chain of command. And guess what? We still have humans in the chain of command for that reason. Yeah. Because it's something in the Daniel Craig James Bond films where they make a point to say that being a good secret agent isn't always knowing when to shoot. They also make this point in the Lord of the Rings, now that I think about it.
They have guns in Lord of the Rings?
No, but Gandalf tells Bilbo that, yeah, warriors have to kill, but part of being a good warrior is knowing when not to kill somebody. Like knowing when to hold your sword instead of letting it fly. So, but, none of it matters because here's the thing. Not everybody is going to say no. Not everybody is going to fail to launch, even in we have come really close to launching. We have, and Russia has. And it has been luck. It has been sheer fucking luck and failure of systems that has kept us from annihilating ourselves. We need to not be doing that.
Unfortunately, the lessons we're getting these days is rather than having less nuclear weapons, you should have more if you don't want to be invaded by a rogue nation that loses its freaking mind. So, yeah, who knows where that's all going to lead to. Anyway, does this movie support, and by the way, yes, I do believe in terms of technology and humans and all sorts of stuff, humans ultimately do need to be in there somewhere. Even if as flawed as we are, we can't leave it all up to the computers. That would be insane. But, and this is my final question before I ask, does this film still work? Does this movie support or challenge the idea of using computers in warfare at all?
No. I think that the using computers in warfare is a foregone conclusion.
But does the movie support or challenge it?
Neither. It doesn't address it.
You don't think it gets in an issue?
We use computers for way more. We use computers to send fucking emails in warfare. To coordinate attacks, we use computers. To target things precisely, we use computers. Like, unless you've seen Star Wars, the only time you can get away with hitting a 2-meter wide thermal exhaust port with a proton torpedo without a computer is if you have the Force. So, like, we need computers because we are not up to the tasks that we have set in front of. Like, we're not firing bows and arrows anymore. We're firing things that need to hit targets more precisely than we can with things that we can't throw with our hands. We need computers to do it.
Yeah, but I think the film ultimately is against computers, at least in the sense of this one, as we see, or at least we should be more careful with them. But ultimately, I think it believes more in humanity as opposed to the computers. The way I read the ending,
I think you don't know computers as much as I do. Like I have a, you have the
filmmaker does either.
You have a view of computers like that they are this monolith like technology. I see computers as being everything that we have today. And
no,
our
emails and all stuff.
Our Alesis
supercomputer. I think it's about.
That particular supercomputer. We also have supercomputers that are figuring out how to fold fucking proteins to prevent prion diseases. We have supercomputers that have been. So there's a program from SETI called BOINC, which, like, you install it on your computer, and when you're not using computer, it borrows your computer to run analyses of space signals that we're receiving. Like,
BOINC.
I forget. It's an acronym for something. But
fucking
no. So, like, computers are, our phones too. My smartwatch is a computer. Our mixers that we're using for sending audio signals through have computers in them. Like,
I understand that. That's not what I was going. I'm simply saying that in terms of warfare, I do think the movie thinks, don't let the computers do it. That's all.
Night vision headsets with heads-up displays have computers in them.
That's specific.
Every guided missile has a computer in it. Every targeting system has a computer in it. Every jet aircraft has a computer running the engines. Everything is driven by a computer somewhere in the military, except for the feet on the ground and fingers pulling triggers.
Anyway, does this film still work?
Maybe.
I'm going to go with, I think it's dated. I don't think it still works. I think, even though I know nothing about computers, I didn't find the characters that compelling. I don't know what Ali Sheedy is doing there. She really doesn't have much to do. I think Broderick's fine, although I think his performance of Glory is pretty bad. But overall, I think he's a good actor. But here's just like, he's a generic white high school student who's supposed to be brilliant, but doesn't stand out in any other kid I've seen in a million movies, especially from the 80s, except he's not as horny. So I don't know. I didn't think it was a very compelling film. I don't think it still works for me.
On one hand, like, the datedness of it was almost a selling point to me because it was a look at 1983.
Technology, yeah.
But I think as a movie, because we are what we are and we are today, it doesn't work for reasons that you've laid out. After this movie came out, just like there was it was used as a reason to enact laws against hacking, it also inspired an entire generation of hackers.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
Like,
I'm sorry, real quick. I will give this movie credit. I still think, even though I'm saying it doesn't work, I think it is still a better movie than a movie we saw about hackers called what? Hackers? What's it called?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is better. This is infinitely better. If I had to judge between these two, this works way better than Hackers. Hackers was complete bullshit.
I agree with that assessment 100%. But yeah, it's not the question of whether we need to have people involved was a good question to ask at a time when it was needed to be asked. We settled on an answer.
We did.
And the last thing I want to do is put the question back out there. Because there happen to be people that would be happy to do that because they don't want anybody to question their order to launch nuclear weapons. And I think we have one of those in the Oval Office right now, so.
Indeed we do. All right, well, so we both agree it doesn't work. If you disagree...
Doesn't work. I was agreeing.
It doesn't work. So if you disagree, please write in. And if you do agree, write in. Just let us know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's coming up next? Well, this was a Patron's Choice episode, and the poll for next month's film is already up on Patreon. And the choices are Girl Interrupted from 1999, The Machinist from 2004, and Black Swan from 2010.
What's the theme, Joe? You should be able to get this off of
health.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should be able to get this off of Girl Interrupted.
The theme is mental health. He asked me that, ladies and gentlemen, because I literally put these together, but I probably forget with a theme, and then probably forget what the theme is. I do these so far in advance. I just don't. But this one I do remember. And not because of Girl Interrupted, which I never saw, but because of Black Swan.
Ah.
And I know that there's serious mental health problems in that picture.
So you've seen Black Swan. I haven't. I've seen Girl Interrupted. You haven't.
And we both haven't seen The Machinist.
I think we may have just influenced the patrons.
Huh?
We may have just influenced the patrons.
Oh, well, we'll see. If we do get to see Black Swan, there's some stuff in there I'd love to know what you think of. It's very wildly explicit sex scene. Like, oh, I don't hate this. Anyway, that's another story. If you want to vote but are not a patron, you can fix that by becoming one at patreon.com/DTSWpod. Now, George, what's up next?
Next week, we'll be talking about Nebraska from 2013.
Talk about graphic sex. It's not in that picture.
Not in that picture at all. None.
You do get
There's like negative sex.
Yeah, you do get to see a granny's underpants. Or,
you do.
Or the hosers.
You do. That you do, Joe. That you do.
So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka.
This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.
The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
That's going to be a fun cut. Dear Abby, I have some questions I'm too embarrassed to ask anybody else. Dear Abby, recently I gave my daughter a neat little sum of money. Dear Abby, I am going to be maid of honor at the wedding of my best friend.